Before welcoming her son Josiah, Tori Roloff talks candidly about her miscarriage, saying, "I'm so mad at my body." Greetings, viewers, greetings from my channel again. Please click the bell symbol and subscribe to the channel for the most recent news updates. Tori Roloff reflects on a challenging time in her parenthood experience. In a recent episode of her podcast Raising Heights, which she co-hosts with her husband Zach Roloff, Tori, 33, spoke movingly about the loss she had in 2021 prior to the birth of their now 2-year-old son Josiah. At their 8-week visit, the couple received the heartbreaking news, despite Tori's claim that they became pregnant very quickly when they started trying for their third child. As Tori remembers, "It was not on my radar that something was wrong. I remember thinking, this pregnancy is really easy. This is going really well." Though legally she wasn't meant to, the mother of 3 claims that her ultrasound technician informed her that her unborn child didn't have a heartbeat. Recalling, "I immediately started crying. This is not taking place. It's not real. I can't possibly be experiencing this." Tori says her physicians informed her that she had the option of letting the pregnancy end naturally or undergoing a treatment called a DNC, dilatation and curettage, after she found out her baby no longer had a heartbeat. A DNC, according to the Mayo Clinic, entails taking tissue from your uterus in order for medical professionals to treat certain uterine conditions, such as heavy bleeding, or to clear the uterine lining after a miscarriage or abortion. "I can remember just being so mad at my body after that," Tori recalls. "I experienced what is known as a missed miscarriage, in which my body failed to detect the baby's death. Since it had been 3 weeks and the growth had halted at that point, I was left to decide how to proceed. In the end, Tori followed through on the DNC and decided to tell her family and the cast of Little People, Big World about her miscarriage. 3 kids, you get kind of excited, you announce it a little earlier," adds Zach. "You skip ahead a little bit as your excitement level rises. I recall telling the family and the TV people that the couple had to break the devastating news to the program after first revealing on camera that they were expecting another child, which forced them to relive the sorrow. Sharing things on camera that's sensitive in the form of reality television is tough because it has to fit into their storyline or their structured episode," Zach says. "We believe a 20-minute explanation is essential to comprehend your perspective, but they are unable to do it at that time. It's difficult because of that. They won't give it the justice it deserves." Tori goes on, "This is our child. I consider pregnancy to be the birth of a child. Therefore, it felt like we had lost a piece of our family when we lost that baby." The couple revealed their second pregnancy 8 months later, in November 2021. They welcomed their son, Josiah, in May 2022. "We didn't tell people that I was pregnant with Josiah until I was halfway done," Tori says, "because I didn't want to go through that again and we have to backtrack." The proud mother of 3 now claims that she cannot fathom their lives without their son, Josiah. "Imagining our lives without Josiah is difficult." Tori adds, "It's really hard for me to imagine where we would be without him and how much I love and am obsessed with him. If not for all that occurred, he wouldn't be here. We'll get to meet our child one day." Little People, Big World. Why Zach Roloff had to leave after 25 seasons, 3 minutes for reading. Fans of Little People, Big World continued to argue over Zach Roloff's forced departure from the program. One of the unusual success stories on reality television was the Rolloff Family. The enormous accomplishment of 18 years and 25 seasons came at a high cost, as significant family conflicts, many of which were connected to the show, pushed family members away from the cameras, the farm, and one another. The Roloffs, Zach and Tori, left Little People, Big World. They believed that there was nothing further they could do. However, why? Zach Roloff and Tori have a podcast. Zach talked about the effects of growing up as a reality star on a recent edition of their Raising Heights podcast. He explored, among other topics, what it was like to grow up in a fishbowl and then experience the same circumstance. Zach remembers the evident pressures when Tori asked him what it had been like to film as a child. Zach Roloff remarked that his early years on Little People, Big World weren't entirely negative, saying, "It was strange because there was always this expectation that I should be doing something right now. Filming for the show was fun at times. he openly acknowledged. It simply had significant flaws and wasn't like those terrible YouTube family horror stories. Zach underlined that it might also be extremely stressful. As a child, he didn't require that. It may be argued that Zach has nothing to compare his upbringing to because he doesn't truly understand what it's like to grow up without reality TV. But perhaps that's the whole idea? It may be argued that Zach has nothing to compare his upbringing to because he doesn't truly understand what it's like to grow up without reality TV. But isn't that sort of the point? He refers to the fishbowl effect as the one thing that accompanied him into adulthood. Zach claims that this feature of reality TV was something he could not stand. Zach explained, "Everyone is staring at you, and you're in a fishbowl." He was talking about producers sitting him and his family in the middle of a restaurant for lighting and angles as other diners and cameras gaze at this now movie set. He wasn't talking about life on the farm. Zach made it clear that filming at restaurants was not the only problem. Because of the fishbowl effect, Zach was terrified to go out in public. Anywhere you see a trail of cameras, boom mic operators, and producers, people will notice. Zach, however, is also a small person. So are all three of his children and both of his parents. People's looks become intolerable at times. Additionally, Zach and Tori talked about how they left Little People, Big World earlier this year because reality TV tears families apart. This is particularly true for the Roloffs. The fact that Zach and Tori are talking about this, or anything, on a podcast may surprise some people. However, they weren't seeking seclusion or a dire need for privacy. They manage the degree of access on a podcast, and no one is following them to record them in a dining establishment. Fans are shocked by Tori and Zach Roloff's abortion opinions as they lament miscarriage for minutes to read during their time on Little People, Big World. Tori and Zach Roloff stirred up very little controversy. Tori and Zach discussed the former's miscarriage in the most recent edition of their podcast, Raising Heights, a terrible event that happened at the beginning of 2021. Tori stated on the segment, "I think that when you get pregnant, that's a baby, and so when we lost that baby, it was like we just lost a part of our family." Although she and her spouse never mention abortion in their conversation, Tori claims that before to this tragedy, she was more apolitical. She goes on, but adds on the podcast, "Being as traumatized as I was, it became black and white for me in that room. This is unacceptable to me. I don't understand how someone could decide to be in that room, and I would never choose to be in it." Tori seems to be expressing that she doesn't understand how someone might decide to terminate her pregnancy. This, of course, is perfectly acceptable on its own. Disagreement with another person's decision-making process is very acceptable. Many would contend that the most important thing is that we all recognize and respect the right of every person to make her own decisions. "It's a consequence I chose," he stated on air. "If I go out and have beers at the pub and drink and drive, get into an accident, I'm going to jail. This is something we don't consider. Having sex was a decision. We wish to select the result, the conclusion." Here, Roloff is undoubtedly stating that women must come to terms with the possibility that having sex could result in pregnancy and that they will need to bring their child to term. And if this pregnancy is putting their health at risk? When Tori repeatedly stated that it is hard for her to get on board with the idea that abortion is healthcare, she may have put herself in the most difficulties. Many social media users expressed sympathy for the couple who had experienced a miscarriage, but many also criticized them for what they perceive to be a privileged and ignorant perspective on this delicate and private subject.
Yes, finished.
"I'm done with you guys. Stop imposing your opinions on other people." One person wrote, "Bye," and another added the following, "When you lose a baby, you actually gain health care by getting a D&C. When abortion is prohibited, that might be taken away. This hypocrisy is disturbing." In response to the notion that she was compelled to end her own pregnancy due to health concerns, Tori actually posted a reply on Instagram stating that, should certain laws be implemented, this might not be feasible in the future. "I completely understand this point, and I can see where it's necessary in that regard," she wrote. "You'll see it wasn't what I was referring to if you listen to the entire program. I was referring to the women who decide to be present in that particular room. I mean, it is our podcast based solely on speaking what we are passionate about," she continued in a different response. Jackson, Lila, and Josiah are the Roloff's 3 children. They were married in 2015. Before delivering Josiah into the world in April 2022, Tori was candid about the pregnancy loss she had suffered. "To be honest, I've never experienced loss like I did at that precise moment." In March 2021, she shared with her Instagram followers, "I've never felt so sad, angry, and scared in one moment. Nothing could have prepared me for hearing that our sweet angel baby was gone, and I had no symptoms of losing him." Tori Roloff discloses that her 4-year-old daughter Lila sustained a pool injury. A great deal of blood was spent. 3 minutes for reading. According to Tori Roloff, her daughter Lila was hurt at the pool. Despite Zach and Tori are aware that fans and following value updates on their family, even though they are no longer on Little People Big World. The Roloff granddaughter, it turned out, needed to be patched. Additionally, her injuries seems terrifying. Hearing there was a lot of blood is nearly always unfavorable. Oh no! What was the nature of Lila Roloff's injury? Fans may still see Zach and Tori Roloff on their podcast, despite the fact that they had to leave Little People Big World. Additionally, fans may view the couple's 3 amazing kids, Jackson, Lila, and Josiah, on social media. Tori announced on Instagram this week that her 4-year-old daughter Lila had been hurt while at the pool.
It pours when it rains.
On her story post, Tori made a joke. A large amount of blood was present. Tori said that she had applied a Band-Aid to her daughter's right eyebrow in her story post. Tori told her followers, "Lila had a little accident in the pool yesterday. I am so happy that she is doing well," the mother of 3 said. "She did a pretty good job splitting her eye." Was the daughter of Tori and Zach Roloff injured enough to require sutures? Fortunately, no stitches were required, Tori disclosed. "However, I believe she will have a fairly permanent scar." Then she said, "I'm so thankful for the friends who kept me composed and got her some chips, which instantly made her feel better. They kept me calm enough to be able to manage it all, even though there was a lot of blood," Tori continued. Josiah Roloff, Tori's 2-year-old son, reportedly contributed to everyone's improved mood. She said, "Josiah is really killing it at healing." And, Tori underlined, "We just keep praying it keeps going well. We all hope Lila recovers and can stay safe from accidents and injuries at the pool and elsewhere in the future." After Lila's poolside injury, Tori Roloff praised her supporters and admirers for their overwhelming outpouring of solidarity.